Hey guys, so today we're gonna do the chapter 6 review. Tomorrow is your test. We're not gonna do every single one of these, but I've got 15 questions ready to go. We'll do these. It's really important that you take notes. Jot these problems down. These are definitely gonna help you on the test tomorrow. So you want to make sure you've got some notes handy. So if you need to, go ahead and pause this video, write these down. And if you want to pause the video and try a couple of these that are circled on your own first, that would probably be the best. That way you can actually see what you understand and then what you're having trouble or what mistakes you made. Versus just watching me do it. It's a lot better if you can do it yourself and, kind of learn from your mistakes. So this time, go ahead and try maybe like the first 4. That's going to be for the first section in chapter 6, so section 6.1, adding and subtracting polynomials. Okay, so I'm going to get started, but go ahead and try these on your own first. So sum obviously means to add, difference means to subtract. So then what you're going to see is sometimes they're going to have a plus in the middle, like these. They're wanting you to add. And sometimes they're going to have a minus in the middle between the parentheses, and this is where they want you to subtract. Now, I don't recommend you try subtracting, because what's going to happen is you're going to forget. And when you go to subtract the 5, it's really a -5, and that double negative is going to trip you up. So what I recommend is anytime it's plus in the middle, you're good to go. But if it's not a plus in the middle, then you need to make it a plus in the middle. So what you're going to do is you're going to change this to a plus, and you're going to change everything after it. So this negative becomes a plus, this positive becomes a negative, and this negative becomes a positive. Now you're ready to go, just like number 1 or number 3. Same thing with number 4. Before we even start, I'm going to change this to a plus, but I have to change all 3 things afterwards. Don't worry about anything in front, just what's after the negative. So now this 3 becomes negative, the 5 becomes positive, and the 6 was positive, but now it's going to be negative. So now I'm ready to go ahead and start working on those problems, and I'm just adding things together. So x goes with x, it stays in x. X squared goes with x squared, it stays in x squared. X to the 5th goes with x to the 5th, it stays x to the 5th. That's all you're doing, okay? So, or a's or whatever letter you have. So I'm looking at the little exponent here. I have an a to the 3rd, a to the 2nd, a to the 3rd, a to the 2nd. So my largest exponent is a to the 3rd. So I'm going to do a to the 3rd with a to the 3rd, and it's going to stay a to the 3rd. So 4 plus 7 is 11, and it stays a to the 3rd. That's it. Okay, now a to the 2nd. A to the 2nd goes with a to the 2nd, and it stays a to the 2nd. So this is a -4 plus 6. So you've borrowed $4. But now you have $6 in your wallet. So you can pay off your $4 debt, and you're still going to be +2 in your wallet. A set to the 2nd goes with a to the 2nd, and it stays a to the 2nd, or a squared, we say. Okay, and you're done. That's it. No really work to show. Just these two go together here, and these two go together here. Same thing with number 2. Now that we've changed the symbols, we're ready to go. The largest exponent I see is y to the 3rd. So I'm going to start out with y to the 3rd, but there's nothing else to buddy up with it. So I'm just going to keep that positive y to the 3rd and just keep it a y to the 3rd like that. Now y to the 2nd goes with y to the 2nd, and it stays y to the 2nd. So I've got 2y to the 2nd minus 5y to the 2nd, because remember, I've changed this. Or you can do plus a -5. It doesn't really matter. You've got $2. You're trying to buy something that's 5. You're going to have to borrow 3. And remember, it stays y to the 2nd. After y to the 3rd, down to y to the 2nd, now we're going to go to y. So now I'm looking for things that are just y. So that's just y, and that's just y. -4 plus 7. So you're borrowing $4, but then you have $7 in your wallet. So you can pay off your $4 debt, and you're going to be positive because you're going to have money left over. You're going to have $3 left over in your wallet. Y goes with y, and it stays a y. So you'll notice the degrees go from 3 to 2 to 1. From 3 to 2. They always go from largest to smallest exponent. We call that degrees. Okay, the next one. h to the second goes with h to the second because that's the largest exponent I see. So 2 plus, and if it's ever missing a number, it's automatically 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3, and it stays h to the second. H goes with h, and it stays in h. So -6 plus 3. You borrow $6, you look in your wallet, you have 3. So you can pay off some of your debt, but you're still going to owe $3. H goes with H, it's going to stay in H. And then no H goes with no H. So 12 minus 7. So that's just 12 take away 7, which is +5. If it was a -5, you'd write -5. Okay, and the last one, x to the second goes with x to the second. 4 take away 3 is 1. I'm going to put an imaginary 1 there. We will not have that on the answer though, okay? But if you want to put it there to remind yourself, that's fine. But on the actual test, it will not have this. It'll just be the x to the second. X goes with x. 3 plus 5 is 8. And no x goes with no x. You borrow 2 and you borrow 6 more. Now you owe me a total of 8, so -8. So that is how we add and subtract. There's going to be a part, on the test, you're going to have a section where you're just adding and subtracting. Notice we did make them all addition though, so we really didn't do any subtracting ones. Okay, then the next section is these 4. So if you want to go ahead and pause it and try these 4, this is finding the product, which means multiply. You can use the distributive property or the box method. I think most of you guys like the box method the best, so that's what I'm going to do. But I would recommend you pause the video right now and go ahead and try these on your own, and then come back if you have any questions and try to see what you did wrong if you had any mistakes. So this is a 1 by 3. So I'm going to make a 1 row by 3 columns. The n is going to go on the 1 row, and then 2n to the third, minus 4n, and plus 5 each get their own column. Now you are doing product, which means to multiply, okay? So you're multiplying the big numbers, but you're actually going to add the small numbers. You might want to write yourself a note over here or something. You're multiplying the big numbers, adding the small exponents. So 2 times 1, if there's not a number, it's automatically 1. 2 times 1 is 2. And again, if there's not a number, it's automatically 1. You're going to add. 1 plus 3 is 4. So that's how you fill in the first box. Second box, 1 times -4 is -4. 1 plus 1, don't forget to add the little 1, is 2. So you get n squared. Last one, 1 times 5 is 5, and just keep the n because you don't have any more n's over here to add to it. Now your answer is just combining like terms, but this is a 4, this is a 2, and this is actually an imaginary 1. So they're all different. So you're just going to rewrite your answer out. None of these are buddies, so you're just going to keep it like that, and that is your answer. So here's your work, here's your answer. The next are all going to be 2 by 2 boxes. So these ones are a little, I think they're a little easier. We're going to make a 2 by 2 box for each of these. And if at any time you think you know what you're doing, go ahead and pause the video, try them, and then come back and watch me do them. You're much more likely to pass the test if you try these on your own without watching me do them first. If you try them on your own first, you're much more likely to do better. So p plus 4 on one side, p minus 4 on the other side. It doesn't matter which one's on top and which one's on the left side. Okay, you're going to do p times p, which is p squared. If you need to put the little ones there, you can. 4 times p is just 4p. -4 times p is -4p. And -4 times times +4, a negative, you get a -16. And then what you're going to do is you're going to look at the diagonals. So there's only one thing with a p squared, and there's only one thing with the -16. But you're going to look at the diagonals and see what happens. And you're going to add, you always add, add the diagonals. So -4 plus +4, those are going to cancel, and this is called a disappearing diagonal. You might only get 2 answers instead of having 3 separate answers, okay? We're going to jump to number 8 because this is a double diagonal. It's the exact opposite. You have the same thing twice. This means to do it twice. You might want to write yourself a note because that's definitely going to be on the test. So t minus 5 and t minus 5. You have the exact same thing twice. When you have the exact same thing, it's going to be a double diagonal. When you have 1 plus and 1 minus, it's going to be a disappearing diagonal. T times t is t squared. T times negative 5 is negative 5t. Negative 5 times t is negative 5t. And a negative times a negative is a positive, and 5 times 5 is 25. So now what's going to happen is you're going to add these again, but they're not going to disappear. They're not going to make 0. They're going to double. Negative 5 plus negative 5 doubles to negative 10. So you have t squared all by itself. Now this diagonal is a double diagonal. It doubles to negative 10. And then you have the plus 25. So notice you have a trinomial, 1, 2, 3 things versus a binomial, 1, 2 things. Okay? So disappearing diagonal, double diagonal. And then the last one is just, they're not the same at all. See how these are just completely different numbers? That's totally fine. So 2w minus 5 and 4w plus 9. You can put one on top and one on the side. It does not matter which one goes on top and which one goes on the side. Everybody's going to get the same answer at the end. 2 times 4 is 8. W times w is w squared. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Keep the w. 9 times 2 is 18. Keep the w. And then the last thing is 9 times negative 5 is negative 45. So now remember, you're always adding the diagonals. No matter what, we add the diagonals. Might want to write that down. So I've got only one thing with a w squared. So I'm going to do 8w squared. Nothing to buddy up there. Nothing to buddy up here. Minus 45 at the end. But these are the same. They both have a w. So you're going to add them. 18 plus negative 20, or 18 take away 20, or negative 20 plus 18. It really doesn't matter the order. No matter what, you're going to get the same answer. So how I think of it is I have $18 in my wallet, but I'm trying to buy something that's 20. How much am I short? I'm short $2. So I'm going to have to borrow $2. So negative 2y, or negative 2w. And that's your answer for that one. Okay, the next section is going to be super simple. Everybody should be able to get these right. Anytime you have a parenthesis and another parenthesis equal to 0, it's super easy. You're just going to break these up into 2 problems. Break these up into 2 problems. So if that sparked your memory and you know what to do now, go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own. If you're still a little confused, keep watching until you remember what we did and then try it on your own once you feel comfortable. So we're going to do q plus 7 equals 0. And we're going to do q minus 3 equals 0. We're breaking it up into 2 problems. How do you get rid of a plus 7? You just do the opposite. You subtract 7 so it goes away. So you get q left, and 0 take away 7 is negative 7. Super easy. You can probably go right from the positive 7 to a negative 7 as your answer. Same thing here. How do you get rid of the minus 3? The opposite would be to add 3, and 0 plus 3 is 3. Again, you can probably go right from the negative 3 to the positive 3 answer if you want. Number 10, though, is a little bit more difficult because there's a number in front of the letter here. So if there's not a number in front of the letter, you can look right at the answer. But if there's a number in front, you got to solve it with a 2-step problem. So 5z plus 10 equals 0. And then z minus 2 equals 0. So again, this one's super easy. You're just adding 2 to both sides. And you can probably guess 0 plus 2 is 2. So you just go from negative 2 to positive 2. Again, you can skip all this step, go right from negative 2 to positive 2 to get your answer. This one, though, is going to be a 2-step problem. Okay, it's not just going to be a 1-step like these are. So you have to get rid of the 10 by subtracting. But if you'll notice, z is not by itself. We still have a 5 to get rid of. So it's going to be a 2nd step. 0 take away 10 is negative 10. And now we do have to get rid of this 5. So how do we get rid of a 5 times z? This is times right now. The opposite is to divide. just like you learned back in part A. Negative 10 divided by 5 is negative 2. So that's your other answer. So you have positive 2 and negative 2. But you can't just look here and see 2, okay? Because you have a 10 and a 5. There's no way to tell that it's 2 or negative 2 until you do it. Okay, but these two, you can look at them and just do the opposite. 7 goes to negative 7. Negative 3 goes to positive 3. Okay, and then we just have two more sections, and then we are done. So the next section is factoring. These are factoring out the greatest common monomial factor. That's just a big tongue twister for getting rid of what they have in common. So anything they have in common is going to go on the outside of the parenthesis. Anything they have left over is going to go inside the parenthesis. Okay, whoops, I did just kind of focused. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video. We're going to try 11, 12, and 13. I'll move it over so you can see 13 as well. There we go. Go ahead and pause the video. Try these on your own, and then if you're still stuck, go ahead and watch me do them. So I'm looking to see what they have in common. 7 and 14. Does 7 go into 14? Yes. So they have a 7 in common. Do they have any letters in common? Yeah, they both have H's. Now this has 6, but this only has 4. So the most that this one can give me is the 4 it has. So that's what I'm going to take. I'm going to take all 4 from each of them. I'm going to take a 7 from each of them, and I'm going to take a 4 H's from each of them. But I can't take any more than 4 H's because this one only has 4 H's to give. Okay? 7 divided by 7 is your imaginary 1. I don't need to write that. H to the 6th, taking out H to the 4th. So 6 take away 4 is going to leave me 2 H's. That's a leftover. Minus, just keep that left over. And now 14 divided by 7 is 2. I have a 2 left over. And I have 4 H's, but I'm taking all 4 away. So 4 take away 4 is no H's, so I just have the 2. And you're done, okay? This is the exact opposite of this. It's the opposite of the distributive property. Instead of putting numbers into the box, you're taking the box and you're breaking it up into the two things, one on top and one on the side. So this would be like what was on the top, and this would be what's on the side. Okay, it's just the exact opposite of that distributive property. Same thing here, 5 and 10. Does 5 go into 10 evenly? Yes. Do they have any letters in common? Do they have any A's in common? No, there's no A here. Do they have a B in common? Yep, there's a B here. So they both have a 5 and they both have a B. Leftovers are going to go in the parentheses. 5 divided by 5 is your imaginary 1. You don't have to write that. A's, we didn't take any A's out, so the A squared is going to stay A squared. It's a leftover. We have 3 B's and we're taking 1 out. 3 take away the 1 is 2 left. So we have a leftover of 2 A's and 2 B's. Plus, do the same thing with the 10. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And we have a B, but we're taking a B away. So B take away B is nothing, just the 2 left over. And that's it. You're done with that. If you're ever confused on if you did it right or wrong, you can always go back and do a 2 by 2 box here, or sorry, a 1 by 2 box or a 1 by 2 box, and you can do what you did over here, just make it a 1 by 2 box. So just do that, like a 1 by 2 box, and your answer that you get should be the original problem. So you can always double check your work. Okay, the last one, same idea, but you have 3 things to look at. Now, do they each have something in common? Well, they're all even, so I can take a 2 out of each, and they all have an X. So I'm going to take a 2 and an X out of everything, and the leftovers are going to go in the parentheses. 2 divided by 2 is my imaginary 1. I don't need to write that. X to the 3rd, taking out 1X. So 3 take away 1 leaves me 2. Leftovers go in the parentheses. Plus, 4 divided by 2 is 2. I have 2 X's and I'm taking 1 away. 2 take away 1 leaves me 1 left over. And then the last thing is the minus, just keep that, the 16 now. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And I have an X, but I'm taking it away. So 1X, take away 1X is no X's, so I just have the 8. And again, you can double check it by doing a 1 by 3 box, just like we did over here. A 1 by 3 box. You'd fill those in, and what you get in the box, this answer should be the original problem. So you can always double check. No reason to ever get those wrong because you can always double check your work. Okay, the last thing we did is 16 and 17, and that was factoring the trinomial. Trinomial means 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You'll notice these all have 3. We're going to do that with the T method. So we're going to break it up, and if this jogs your memory and you remember doing this T method or the big plus sign or whatever we called it, you can go ahead and pause the video and try these two on your own if you remember. If not, keep watching and I'll show you how to do these. And then you'll be ready for your test. So we're going to break up x squared. X times x is x squared. We're not going to look at the middle number right now. We're going to look at the 14. What times what is 14? Well, you got 1 times 14 and 2 times 7. So I like to write down my choices. Now I look, and this tells me whether I want those numbers to add or subtract. So I'm going to add those numbers to make 9. Well, which ones add to make 9? Well, 2 times 7 is 14, but 2 plus 7 is 9. So 2 plus 7 makes 9, and I need it to be a positive 9. So I need them both to be positive to make a positive 9. And now your answer is just the top and the bottom. So x plus 2 in parentheses and x plus 7 in parentheses. Or you could have x plus 7 and x plus 2. It does not matter the order here, because 2 plus 7 is 9 and 7 plus 2 is still 9. 2 times 7 is 14 and 7 times 2 is still 14. So the order does not matter. You can have these flipped. That's totally fine. And then number 17, last one. We're doing the same thing. W squared is W times W. I am not looking at the center. I'm just looking at this end number. 12 is 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Now, obviously, the better you are at multiplying, the quicker you are going to be at doing these problems. But you can totally list factors of something simple like 12. Now, I need them to subtract, not add. This means to add. This symbol means to subtract. So that symbol right in front of that number is going to tell you if you want them to add or subtract. I want them to subtract, and if there's no number here, we know it's a 1. So I need them to subtract to make 1. Well, these don't subtract, but these do subtract to make 1. 4 take away 3 will give me 1. Now, more importantly, I don't just want 1, I want a negative 1. So if this is negative, the bigger of the two numbers is going to be the negative. If that was positive, the bigger of the two numbers would be positive. And then the other symbol is going to be the opposite. Okay? So I'm borrowing 4, but I'm only going to pay back 3. That's how I'm going to borrow 1 or owe 1. Okay? The only way to get to negative 1 is to borrow 4 and only pay back 3. So now my answer is this on top and this on the bottom. And again, you can have these flipped, but the 3 has to be positive and the 4 has to be negative. So you can have y plus 3 and then y minus 4. That's totally fine. But the 3 has to be the positive and the 4 has to be negative because you have to make a negative 1. And that's it. You should be ready for the test tomorrow. Like I said, make sure you took good notes. If you didn't, you're going to want to go back and take notes because there's a good chance that some of these problems I'm showing you today are actually going to be the exact same problem or at least very, very similar to what you're going to see on the test. And then you guys are done.